It's 2026. That will be the year of the what for the Pacers. Plus, could Micah Potter actually stick around with this team beyond this temporary stint? And why the possession battle is key for the Pacers getting going again. It's all coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Congrats, you made it through the weekend. Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, so much to get into. The possession battle, why the Pacers are falling apart in a way that they were very good in recent seasons. I want to talk about the year it is. It's 2026 now, which will be the year of the what for the Pacers. I want to make this a trend and look back on it at the end of the year. Was I correct? Was I not? We'll run through what the last couple years were and why they were very clearly defined and how the Pacers have usually stuck to their guns on certain things. But I want to open by talking about a trend. The Pacers, a trend is too strong, but something they just started doing by changing their starting five for the second half of Pacers Magic. Micah Potter was on the floor. And I don't want to go too deep on this, but for a team that's looking for answers at center, they've gone for center by committee. They've changed their starters several times this season. They've cut a guy. They brought back the same guy. They have a different guy. Does Micah Potter actually have a chance to stick around? Maybe he should. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to get ahead of myself after one, albeit pretty solid game. He deserved the minutes he got in Pacers Magic, but Micah Potter played pretty well in that game, and Rick Carlisle opted to start him in the second half and played him quite a few minutes for good reason. He was doing real things that were helping the team in that game. For a lot of his first few performances, a lot of what I would say I felt good about with Micah Potter is that I had very few notes on him that were just like, what was that? Like he never got beat on the perimeter real bad, or he never did something so erroneous that I was like, I have to type that down. Even if he wasn't doing anything so awesome, that does matter, that is a way that you're playing. And then you have a game like this Orlando game where he plays 26 minutes and has 8 points, 3 boards, and 3 assists, and is plus 23 in a loss, and starts the second half of a game, and they're benching Jay Huff, and Tony Bradley's barely playing. It's like, what's going on here? And this is an interesting time to talk about it, because if you remember when they signed him, I talked about the timing, and I talked about this with Mo Bamba when he signed with the Raptors as well. Contracts guarantee in the league next week. If you are on your team on January 8th and you have not been waived yet, your contract for the rest of the season becomes guaranteed. And so Potter is still, and Tony Bradley is too, fighting to be on the Pacers beyond that date. Now, they'll probably only cut one player. I still think they will cut somebody. The flexibility is nice. They might even keep that player on some 10-day deals after cutting them. But I do think they'll make a waiver in the next 5 days, maybe 2. We'll see. But Potter felt to me when they signed him like we need a big bad. Isaiah Jackson's hurt. Tony Bradley's thumb is broken. Let's bring in someone else. And they did. And remember, it was all complicated with James Wiseman's contract. Maybe they could bring him back in a few days, but then Potter had 6 assists in Houston and made a 3 and all this stuff. And then it's like, he's playing a little bit. Oh, he's playing a lot of bit. So now the natural progression of that is for a team that is searching for anything at center. Isaiah Jackson starts the season, and he's recovering from an Achilles tear, so it took him a while to really hit the on-ramp. And then, Jay Huff's better than him for these couple weeks where he looks awesome, but now he's kind of been exposed by other teams that have pulled him away from the basket, and he can't make a shot. And Tony Bradley is the same player basically every single time he plays, which is a very low-ceiling player, but it's valuable. We'll talk about him in this context. Like, they're just searching for answers. Tony Bradley started a few games, if you remember. Like, they've been trying everything, and Micah Potter is now a part of everything and has actually done pretty well, right? I don't even mean this to dump on other players, but let's just talk about these 4 games of Micah Potter, okay? He is clearly the shortest of their bigs. I've seen them all stand near each other, right? He is closer to a 4 size than natural center size. And yet, in 4 games with the Pacers, Micah Potter has made 2 3-point shots. Isaiah Jackson has not made a 3 since the 2022-23 season. Tony Bradley has made 1 3 in his 42 appearances for the Indiana Pacers. James Wiseman has not made a 3 since the 2022-23 season and did not make one for the Pacers. Jay Huff obviously can shoot. Right? There's an extra/different dynamic that Potter provides, and he has been a good shooter in the G League and at least good enough on volume in the NBA with real shot attempts with the Jazz. He took 100 threes last year. He took 98 to be specific, and made 32% of them. The year before that, he went 9 for 21. That's 43%. That's obviously super low volume, but the G League numbers are impressive. Maybe this is a real thing. And if you're a team trying to evaluate a by committee position, you want different types of players. They have another shooting big, but Potter does other stuff that none of these guys can do. For me, the thing that matters the most with what I'm about to describe is if you're on the perimeter because you can shoot, something Miles Turner, I thought, and I said this a lot on this podcast for you everydayers, you'll know this, did not get enough credit for that he got better at. He had to get better at this, to be clear, with the way the Pacers changed their style was he used to catch it at the top of the key when he was younger in his Pacers career. And when Miles Turner was confident, he'd shoot, and when he wasn't, he would freeze. And as they needed him to be more of a fulcrum at the top of the key, when he would catch it at the top, he quickly made all kinds of decisions, regardless of his confidence level. If he needed to swing it to the other side, he would quickly turn and pass. If he needed to dribble right into a handoff with the guy that just gave him the ball, he would do that. Pitch and screen, pitch and pop, whatever he needed to do. He got very good at reading what he needed to do in that moment. And on the Pacers, that was very valuable. On the Bucks, that clearly has not been something he's asked to do or been as important to them. I don't want to talk about Miles Turner. What I do want to say is Micah Potter can make quick decisions at a decent level. He had 6 assists in that Houston game. He has 10 assists with the Pacers in 4 games. Isaiah Jackson has 24 assists in 29 games this season. Tony Bradley has 15 assists in 28 games this season. James Wiseman had 3 assists in his 4 appearances. Maybe he comes back. We'll see. And Jay Huff has 45. Jay Huff's the closest rate of assists that Potter has right now, but Potter's higher than all of them. And I think it's telling that he's the closest in terms of a per minute, per game, whatever you want to say. Maybe per minute would be better. Isaiah Jackson's at 1.6 assists per 36. Tony Bradley's at 1.8. Jay Huff, I should have just scrolled to this earlier, is at 2.4. And Micah Potter's going to be ahead of all of that. Yeah, he's at 5.4. I think some of that is on the perimeter where he can shoot. He makes quick decisions. Now, Potter is not as good as Tony Bradley or maybe even Isaiah Jackson on the glass. He's okay at it. He's gotten 4 offensive rebounds in 4 games. That's nice. He's shorter than them, so that comes with a natural defensive limitation, though if you move and you're not in the wrong spot, you're going to defend okay. Like, I'm not saying he's better than any of these guys, but he clearly does something different than what they've had at the position for much of this season. And he just played well enough that Rick Carlisle said, you, go play. Go close the game against a good team. And it was like, everybody's like, yeah, I get it. So Jackson might come back, and then Potter won't play again. But is it possible that this, if they're searching for answers at the 5, that they're just like, yeah, let's try this guy. He does something different. And they could cut him later in the season if they need the roster spot. His cap hit's not very big. But they had this work out where they gave Tony Bradley a team option, non-guaranteed last season, and he's still on the team now. Now, here's what this really is. If they're going to cut someone, which I think they probably will. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I think that's the most likely thing. Even if they keep that player. Remember what they did with James Johnson in 2023? They waived him and then brought him back twice on 10 days, right? They could do that with either Potter or Bradley. So I'm not saying either player getting cut would mean they're not on the Pacers anymore. But I think Bradley's chances of sticking have gone up, and I would like to use a past player as an example of what could happen. Kiefer Sykes, 2021-22 season. Don't think about anything else from that season. It was an absolute disaster for the Pacers in many ways. Brad Wanamaker, terrible. Don't need him. They cut him. Kiefer Sykes, they signed him to a non-guaranteed contract on December 28th of 2021. So right before the cut-down deadline, they say, all right, let's see if this works. If you play well, maybe your contract will get guaranteed. And he barely plays his first 2 appearances. And then they play the Cavs on January 2nd. He plays 35 minutes, 10 points, 5 assists. They play the Knicks on January 4th, 22.6 assists. They play the Nets the very next day, 18 points and 5 assists. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, maybe Kiefer Sykes can play. They don't have any other games before the cut-down deadline, and they keep him. And then he has 11 points in Boston on January 10th, and he never scored 10 points again, right? So that's what the conflict, air quotes, conflict is. Kiefer Sykes played well, and he deserved the chances he got for that very not good team at the time. So that's what the Pacers kind of have to decide. They didn't. I'm using that example to say it's possible Potter does that, proves it, and then sticks around. It's also possible that he has his best games as a Pacer like right now, and these don't happen again. But as we've seen with James Johnson, there are a lot more options than just figuring this out on the 7th, and then it's over. So 2024, was the year that they did that funny stuff with James Johnson, So I think this is all very interesting. I also think Tony Bradley, who's the other non-guaranteed player, the savings they would get by waiving either one of them are pretty close. They'd get a little more by waiving Bradley, but not so much that it really matters. Look, Tony Bradley is such an interesting player. Not interesting in that he's like so good or should be playing more or anything like that, but he does not get enough credit for being the same dude every time he's on the floor. His ceiling is pretty low, right? I don't even mean that necessarily super insulting, but he's very rarely bad in terms of the things that he does. I think only 1 or 2 games this season I've had in my notes at some point like, wow, Tony Bradley stunk tonight. One just happened. In Houston, that third quarter he played was not very good. But usually if he's bad, it's because he's asked to do something that he legitimately can't do or shouldn't be asked to do. And that's not a good thing that even could happen to a player. But he is, if he's on the floor, he's going to set hard screens, he's going to rebound, he's going to be around the basket, and he can't defend his space. And what he is what he is. But he has a certain skill and rebounding that gets him on the floor. He is a much better rebounder than Micah Potter. I'm not saying they should keep Potter over Bradley. I'm saying his diverse skill set and the fact that they clearly value him and their history of what happened with Kiefer Sykes says, just keep an eye on it. If Potter has a few more good games, this will be a real discussion next week. They only have 3 more games between now and the cut down date. And I wanted to get to the heart of that, and that will continue to be a topic for everybody, including me, to keep an eye on. Okay, it's 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. What is this going to be the year of for the Pacers? We'll look back at past years that were kind of correct in terms of the predictions and what 2026 could be about for the Pacers. Coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Everybody, quick break so we can talk about FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season. That's today. FanDuel is making them even better every Friday night before the games tip off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 have become appointment viewing for NBA Happy Hour. Open the FanDuel app during Happy Hour and it'll bring you something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's super easy to check. The weekly special before tip-off. Make a move before that window closes. The timing is perfect. It's right before the games on the weekends, right before everything gets going. It adds extra energy to that Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On Hoosiers. I can't believe it. I can't believe they smoked Alabama in the Rose Bowl. That doesn't sound like possible that IU football could do that. I thought wearing the IU football jersey on this podcast would be a short bit, but they keep going. Woo, crazy stuff. Wow. They won with a bye. I wanted to talk about it, but I'm not going to. This is a Pacers podcast. If you're an Alabama fan or a Purdue fan, I'm sorry. Okay, let's keep going here. It's 2026. Happy New Year. This is my first time recording what feels like in years about the Pacers. 2026. I want to make this a thing I do every year where the first podcast of the year I say, for the Pacers, this will be the year of the blank. And then on like December 30th, I say, was that correct? Was that what the year was about? And so at first I thought, well, what would this have been like in recent years of this era? Because I kind of do this. If you recall, for example, in the offseason that just happened, I said, I think next year or next offseason is kind of going to be the year of the extension. They have so many guys extension eligible, and they don't have to decide their futures now, but they'll learn a lot about the future of a lot of their team in the next year or so. So let's go back a little bit because it's actually informative of what this could be for the Pacers this year. Because 2 years ago, for example, at this time, the start of 2024, they had just come off this NBA Cup run. Clearly, their ceiling's very high, but Tyrese Haliburton's hurt. They're like about 500, a little over that. What's their ceiling really? How good are they? Right? And that was the year of opportunity, right? When are they going to strike? Are they going to wait till the season's over, see how they do in a potential playoff series, and then get another great player in the door? Are they going to do it now? You never know who's available. And then 3 weeks after New Year's, they trade for Pascal Siakam. That went great. They made the conference finals immediately, right? The year of opportunity, and they strike. It was very clear that that was the discussion about the team, but the question was when, and they got ahead of it. And keep that in mind. They got ahead of it. Last year, 2025, was the year of continuity. Now, that's kind of about this year too, but the thing about that was, technically this dates back to 2024, but they re-sign Siakam in the summer. They re-sign Obi Toppin in the summer. They extend Andrew Nembhard before they had to, kind of. They extend TJ McConnell before they had to. This year, they extend Aaron Nesmith, right? The year of continuity. How good is this team really? We believe in it as the Pacers. Let's keep these players. If we keep winning, Great. We know this is the right core. If not, we have great contracts that we can trade to keep the team where they need to be. Continuity year paid off. Turns out the conference finals run was not a fluke. They have a great team. They were one win from a championship. You all know it. Then they lose Miles Turner, and now they're here. And so now what is the 2026 year of the blank going to be for the Pacers? Well, what does the past tell us about these situations, air quote situations, for the Pacers? When faced with a path in this competitive era, wait and evaluate what we have or go for it now. They went early. They said, we want Pascal Siakam right now. He's available now. We have an extra draft pick now. They would not have an extra first-round pick in 6 months, right? In the summer that followed, they have cap flexibility now, kind of. Let's extend all these players. The vibes are good now. Happy teams win games. They kept the team happy. They won a lot of games. This year, I would say, is two things. And this one is related to what I said last summer about extensions. 2026 for the Pacers is the year of the money. Who is worth their dollars? That sounds very simple. That's true of every team in some capacity, but they know their core is great. Absolutely great. They have all of them locked up for a while. Through 2027-28, Haliburton, Siakam, Nembhard, Toppin, and Nesmith all under contract, and possibly / probably McConnell and Isaiah Jackson, and probably Jay Huff, and maybe Johnny Furphy. That's a lot of pretty good players. Two really good players in some cases. They have allocated their funds in that way. This year is the year of the money. Who else can they fit in to that structure? Is it Ben Mathurin? Is it someone else? Is it an extension for any of their other young players? Is it a to-be-acquired center? Is it a big contract for a rookie scale deal? The reason that this is the year of the money is that next year, barely any of their core players become free agents, right? Mathurin's so interesting in the spot he's in right now because he's a good top name your number player for the Pacers, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, who's a free agent after the season. That he's like the only guy who fits that billing even next year. Maybe Ben Shepherd. But after this summer, Haliburton, not a free agent. And in 2027, Siakam's not a free agent in 2027. Nembhard's not a free agent in 2027. Obi Toppin is not a free agent in 2027. Aaron Nesmith is not a free agent in 2027. TJ McConnell probably won't be a free agent in 2027. His contract's partially guaranteed for a healthy amount. Isaiah Jackson's not a free agent in 2027. Jarris Walker will be. Is he in their top 10? Ben Shepherd is maybe the one. Maybe the one. Jay Huff is probably not going to be a free agent in 2027. He's a team option. Johnny Furphy also has a team option, right? It's possible that they have one guy in the next 2 years who actually has like a big raise coming their way. And so this year is the year of the money. How do the Pacers figure out the last step of allocating their resources through the obvious current window they have of the Haliburton Siakam window, plus the rest of the score? Do they do anything else to either create flexibility to spend on a different player than one who's currently on their team, or do they trade some players to make that happen? Or is it just going to be a draft pick? And the third or that I meant to say the first time before I forgot about the draft is, does their spending threshold change? There was the report from Shams during the finals that they'd go into the tax to sign Miles Turner, the contract they reportedly offered him, and the one that may or may not have been their final offer in hindsight, would have taken them into the tax. I think they were willing to do it this year. He's not on their team. Will they be willing to do it when Tyrese Haliburton is back? These questions will define 2026 as a calendar year, not their success. The playoffs are probably playoffs are not happening this year, but this year is the year of the money. Extensions are a huge part of that, as I talked about last summer. As many potentially as 12, I believe, players extension eligible in the coming offseason. Haliburton, Siakam, Nembhard, Toppin, McConnell, Walker, Shepherd, Furphy, Huff. That's not 12. It's a lot. It's the year of the money. And just a little smaller is the similar one to the 2024 one, where they traded for Siakam a few weeks after the year of opportunity. This is a little smaller, maybe the year of the center. I bet by the end of 2026, they'll have a much better center on their team than they have right now. So that makes this the year of the center in that way. I think that's very related to the year of the money. Who is that center and when do they do it? The past says they will get ahead of it, and they will do it in the next month plus a little before the trade deadline. That is what they've shown. When they know what their year is about, what their upcoming season's about, they get ahead of it. I guess they do it and they figure it out and they have typically made smart choices. You don't get to the finals without making smart choices. And so we will look back in December and say, how did the Pacers, faced with questions about their money and their center, what did they do with those things and how to define their future? This is the year of the money and the year of the center. And I bet a year from now, it'll be the year of the, is Haliburton still Haliburton? But that's a year from now. Okay, let us continue by talking about one other thing about this Pacers on-court product of late that has not been talked about much that probably should be. The possession battle, the superpower of last year's Pacers, is not a superpower anymore. What's going on? How can they fix it? We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Crimson Tide your second listen. SEC supremacy or whatever. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I can't believe it. I keep making a joke to people I know like, hey, sorry, I took a long nap today. I had a crazy dream how you won the Rose Bowl by 35 points against Alabama. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't help it. The possession battle. Think back to last year's Pacers. Tyrese Haliburton obviously is the face of everything I'm about to say, and he's not on the team this year. I get it, but just bear with me. Last year's Pacers obviously made a lot of shots, fourth in effective field goal percentage. This year's team makes no shots. They're dead last in that. That's something. You know what else the Pacers were really good at last year? They never turned it over. Fourth lowest turnover rate at 11.8% of their possessions. That's great. They also turned their opponents over 13.1% of their possessions, slightly above average. Their defensive rebound rate compared to the rest of the league, 20th last year. Their offensive rebound rate was bad. So all that to say, they made a lot of shots. That obviously matters a lot. They also, a lot of the time, won the possession battle. Almost 2 fewer turnovers per game than their opponent. Right there in the rebound battle, particularly the offensive end, which is the one that matters for getting more possessions, That's huge. Getting more chances to score, especially when you make shots, is huge. The other reason possessions are huge is when you can't make shots, that is the way to chew into that. The Grizzlies a few years ago were the first team that really made me think about offensive efficiency in this way because they were like mediocre-ish at making shots, but they had Steven Adams back then, and they kicked butt on the offensive glass, and they didn't turn it over that much, and they just had so many extra chances. And eventually John Morant or Jaren Jackson or whoever put the ball in the dang basket, right? That was the team that lost the Warriors in the second round. They were awesome. I think they were the second best team in the league that year. And so that was the first year that got me thinking about the math problem. I always say this, every time you think about scoring and offensive rating, which is literally just points divided by possessions, right? Everybody thinks about the top part, the numerator, points. How do you make that number bigger? That makes your offensive rating bigger. Duh. Making more shots is great. It is a never-ending goal of every NBA team to be more efficient. Never ending. However, another way to improve your offensive rating would be to have more possessions and thus make the denominator a lesser impact or detriment to that equation, right? So how great were the Pacers at that last year when they were also making shots and they never gave the ball away. They were finishing possessions with shots. Huge, awesome, good stuff. So that takes us to this year's Pacers, who obviously can't make anything. They are 30th in the league in three-point percentage, ascending, though, above 33%, certainly their two-point percentage is better. No, it is also 30th. That's bad. Their effective field goal percentage stinks. They've got to make shots. It's been a mess. But if you're going to have that be a huge hurdle, and by the way, I bet they end the season about 26th in field goal percentage. I bet they pass some teams when they're healthy for a couple weeks. Regardless, they haven't made shots. You know how you correct that is what I just said. You make the possession battle your thing. The Rockets just destroyed the Pacers like this. The Rockets' per possession efficiency is pretty good, to be clear. I think their effective field goal percentage is like 8th, but they get so many extra chances, an absurd number. So many teams are great in the turnover battle. OKC, their half-court offense is their biggest weakness, but they take 10 more shots than you every night, so it doesn't matter. Maybe even more than that. They have good rebounders on their team. So let's talk about the Pacers. They have one thing going for them. Their turnover rate is still low. It's 12.2%, but it's 10th. That's 10th. They're top 10. Good. That's good. You don't turn the ball over that much. It's still 7 spots lower, 6 spots lower, whatever, than last year, and they were 4th in turnover rate. Offensive rebounding, they stunk at it last year. It felt like for a minute this might be a superpower for this team. They were pretty good on the glass in the preseason. They're kind of reconfiguring their center rotation. They're 22nd in offensive rebound rate this year. Last year, they were 29th. So progress, but still well below average. Meanwhile, defensively, last year's team had the 19th worst effective field goal percentage allowed. This year's team's 21st. The number is 0.002 apart. So they're allowing their opponents to make roughly the same shots as last year. Okay, thumbs up, whatever. You'd probably hope that's a little better, but whatever. So certainly the possession battle can become important on the defensive end. Well, last year's Pacers team forced a turnover. Oh, I'm on the wrong tab. Last year's Pacers team forced a turnover rate of 13%. That was 12th best in the league. This year's team, it's down to 12.5, and that's 21st in the league. And that's barely below their own turnover number. The Pacers are only corralling 0.3 more turnovers than they give up this year. So they've lost a big advantage in the possession battle right there. And their defensive rebound rate last year was not very good. It was 74.5%. That was 20th in the league. This year, it's worse. It's 21st. It's 72.8%. Again, people thought that their rebounding would get better this year. It has not. It did for a little bit. It has not. That has not been a thing. So altogether, if you want to make up for not making shots, you need to be good in the possession battle. In the past, they were awesome at this. Tyrese Haliburton is obviously a huge part of it. He has the ball all the time. He does not turn it over very much. I'm not saying that it's just that, though, because they came into the season and said, the standard is the standard. We want to play this way. We hope to play this way. Maybe they shouldn't have thought that way, but they hoped to, and they have not been able to. And so I wonder if something the Pacers could do to give themselves a little bit of margin for error in some of these games is do better in this category. Take care of the ball a little better. I mean, they have 2 or 3 turnovers a game that are just disconnection turnovers that did not happen as much last year. Somebody throws it to a cutter who's not cutting. Somebody skies it over somebody who's just slightly out of position. They're not quite running to the right spot in transition. They're too clogged up. Ball handling turnover. There are a lot of those. Their rebounding needs to be a little better. They hoped it would. It has not been. That's an everybody thing. It's also a centers thing. This would matter. This matters to them. This would be a huge help for them getting extra chances. And every team wants extra chances. Every team wants better offense. Every team wants better defense. But these were focuses we saw from them at times in the preseason and camp and early games that haven't really held. And I just wonder as they continue to kind of flounder, they're last in both 3 and 2 point percentage, if they could stand to look a lot better with fewer turnovers or better rebounding. How do they get that on the floor? As much as I just wanted to say Micah Potter played well in the first segment, that's probably the thing that he does worse than any of their other centers is the glass. And that's mostly because of his height. He's not even a bad rebounder. I don't even mean to slam him as a rebounder, but he's the shortest one of them. How do they get more rebounds? How do they take care of the ball better? Everybody could stand to do better at that. Every single player. I think that would go a long way in making them look less inept on the offensive end, potentially win some games, which they'll try to do tonight for the first time in 11 tries. When the Spurs come to town without Victor Wembanyama, huge bummer. He hyperextended his knee against the Knicks. Ew, I hated to see it. It looked gross. This is his 3rd season in the NBA. He's played 1 regular season game in Indy. That stinks. They were in Paris last year. They came for the preseason this year, and he played, but he's hurt this year. That stinks. Will the Pacers beat the Spurs without him? We'll see. Those guards on San Antonio are nasty. We'll be podcasting right after that game here on Locked On Pacers. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers on many platforms. Thank you all so much for listening today. Back tomorrow talking Pacers Spurs. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.